Yeah.
So verse 31 of John chapter 19, then the Jews, because it was the day of preparation, and that's for the Passover, so that the bodies would not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for the Sabbath was a high day, asked Pilate that their legs might be broken, that they might be taken away. So the it was the Sabbath and it was the Passover, and so it would have been defiling, I guess, and it would have been inappropriate to have, according to the Jewish leaders, to have dead bodies hanging on crosses during that time. And so that's the reason. And again, and we've talked about this, before too, that, this is probably the same leaders who sent Jesus to his death in the
Hmm.
first place. I mean, you can't get more foul than that, you know, um,
Right.
doing the work of their father, the devil. Um, and so that was the reason for hastening the death, of the of, Jesus and the others on the cross. So the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first man and the other who was crucified with him. But coming to Jesus, when they saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and immediately blood and water came out. And I've heard people who, um, understand medical things. I'm not one of those people, but I've heard people say that if blood and water comes out, it means that someone's heart has failed. If they get, poked in the side, um, and that's how they knew. And again, the Romans were masters of torture and death, so they would have without being medical people, they would have known all about that. I didn't understand it till it was explained to me.
A statement I wanted to make, or a question I wanted to ask was, so even in doing that, lessening their torture, they were looking out for themselves. Is that?
Oh, the Jewish leaders.
Yeah.
Well, you have to remember that everything with them was external.
Mhm.
Everything was appearances. Jesus even told them that on the outside you're whitewashed, but on the inside you're full of dead men's bones. And so for them, everything was literally keeping up with appearances. So they were satanic and evil and possibly even demonic on the inside, but then on the outside keeping up the appearances. Remember
Yeah.
when one would go to give an offering, somebody would be there to blow a trumpet. That would be like today, a church giving to a charity and having the big check and the cameras and all that. So they were into that. When they would fast, making ugly and contorted, faces, so people would know that they were fasting.
Right.
Just that, so everything that they did was only for show. And I think Jesus even told them something similar to that it's all just basically it was a sham what they were doing, because they cared about the little minutia of the law, tithing herbs, tithing their little herbs and 10%, exactly, but devouring widows' houses. So that all comes from, um, so them wanting, not wanting anybody to be on the cross at that point who had already died was just more of that, right? It was just more of, hey, we need to keep up appearances, things need to be right. But it was something that was external, you know, something that was completely external. In the last part of verse 35, um, the Apostle John says, so that you may believe, right? And then in um, in John 20:30, he says, um, therefore, many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence his disciples, of the disciples, which are not written in this book, in the book of John, but these have been written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. And that was really the whole reason for the writing of this book. It wasn't, the other, Matthew, Mark, and Luke were the synoptic gospels, and they all kind of followed a timeline. And John was different, where John, not that there's not evidence in those other books, but John was concerned totally with showing and making the case for Christ and who he is. So
in verse 35, yes, I say, and he who has been, and he who has seen has testified, and his testimony is truth, and he know that he's telling the truth so that you may believe, that you may believe. I will see that Gospel of John most is proof that Jesus is God,
Yes.
that which he have seen. He is the one who eyewitness of this event. He is the one who eyewitness. That's why he himself will see in the verse 35. He knows that he is telling the truth so that you may believe. So you may believe. To believe who he is the one who eyewitness. They just expound about who is Jesus in Gospel according to John.
Yes.